Hey, Crystal Maiden here. The color of that spiral thing is different depending on what character you go into the Chao world with, which is a nice touch. Yeah, that's how Eggman attacks his Chao. He slaps. And look at how fast he goes. This is ridiculous. I don't really recommend using Eggman in the Chao garden because he's so much taller than the Chao, so it's kind of awkward. I don't think it's quite as bad as using Big, though.
With the Chaos Emerald in the Space Colony Ark. I've got to find out just what's going on up there.
We interrupt this broadcast for an important news flash. There has been a break-in at the Federal Reserve
I love the
Bank
British
today.
accent she has.
Mysteriously, the only thing that was
Chaos
stolen
Emerald?
was the Chaos Emerald. According to eyewitnesses at the scene, the suspect was identified as the world-renowned hero.
Why would
Sonic
anyone
the
think that?
Hedgehog.
Maybe
The
it's a
suspect
cover-up
was
by
seen
gun.
fleeing the scene, destroying the reserve's guard robots in his path. Stay tuned for
Sounds
more
more
details.
like the work of Shadow.
How pathetic. Find them before they escape! Maria!
What?
Shadow, I beg of you, please do it
Maria.
for me, for all the people on that planet. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
I still remember what I promised you. For the people of this planet, I promise you. Revenge!
I love that cutscene! That is easily my favorite cutscene in the game because it gets you so immersed into what's going on. Like, that practically brought a tear to my eyes, seeing how sad the whole Maria departing scene was. Although I do have one minor nitpick with it. Maria never blinks, or has proper facial expressions or body language or anything. She kind of comes off as weird and kind of distracts from the scene. Like, people like to complain about how they made her look too anime and kind of... I'm so glad that I got that recorded. I mean, at least I did actually manage to homie attack him, but yeah, sometimes the homie attack will glitch out and you'll orbit the enemy instead of hitting it. I eventually hit him that time, but that happens a lot more in Sonic Heroes. And I hate those rolling pins that force you to stop and somersault under them. But thankfully it's made up for it with a really fast-paced section that I really love. You gotta know to spin dash when you come to a slope, because that's where the spin dash is most useful. Just like in the classic games. The annoying thing is that you can't spam the homie attack and you press A the instant that you finish another one, because chances are that you'll miss. Like, chances are that you can't just spam the A button and expect to always get it right. I don't think the homie attack is as accurate as in Unleashed, although that's not to say I've never missed with the homie attack in that game too. But anyways, I just love that previous cutscene. Like, everything about it is so well constructed. I love the music that plays when Maria shows up. And the fact that Shadow has a flashback to his past when he was living in a space colony with a little girl who's pretty innocent. At first you think, oh, this is just some evil hedgehog. This is boring. He's just so stereotypical and cliche. But then you can see the dark story. And then it turns out this is actually the most deepest and sympathetic and interesting and fleshed out villain in the Sonic franchise. And they never do something like this again. After that, it's just boring monster of the week. And it's really disappointing. But I just love everything about that scene. Like, I love the fact that there's sirens. There's police sirens, and that gives him a flashback to when he was being chased by the gun soldiers. And I just love the panicked, frantic atmosphere of that cutscene where they were chasing after them, and then immediately cuts to when Shadow's in the pod and Maria is sending him away. And she says her sad goodbyes, and it gets to the sad part of Shadow's theme, which is perfectly timed with that cutscene. And I don't mind the fact that she says sayonara instead of goodbye. Like, people try to whine, oh, let's do Japanese, it takes me out of the scene, But you know what? In the Japanese version, she says adios. It's just her saying goodbye in a different language to give greater impact to the fact that she says goodbye. Which makes it all the more annoying that in Shadow the Hedgehog, he says goodbye, Shadow the Hedgehog. So, it doesn't really have the same emotional impact. And what I showed off a little earlier there is that you can't spin dash through an enemy and keep on going. It's just like in Sonic Blast. And granted that happened in Nestle 1 too, you spin dashed into the turrets. Yeah, and the cutscene where Shadow meets Sonic, from the Dark Story perspective, it just cuts away before the helicopters find Sonic.
This is Rouge. I've located
I like
Batman's
this.
base and will proceed to enter it now. I hate to say it. I guess I'm going to have to find that key first.
Like, I like her performance for that. Like, it's so feminine and stuff. She does a pretty good job, I think. Well, I guess it is a little annoying having to sit through a tiny intro cutscene before you can play the level, but whatever. The main thing that separates Egg Quarters from Death Chamber, well, there's two things. One is that it's not full of warp portals. Like you can go down a hallway and you can just go through the entire area in one go. So it's not nearly as confusing, and in multiplayer mode, it's even better because you can just go around the big circle, constantly going through hallways, and you can just easily make your way to every different color area. That statue that was making the screen flash green and stuff. The gimmick with that, the gimmick with that robot is that if you hide in the shadows, it won't hurt you with a whole bunch of lasers. But I'm always too impatient to do that because I'm trying to get the level done as fast as possible and find the Emerald Shard. I don't want to be standing still waiting in the shadows. So I always end up getting into that thing because, naturally, I want to get the level done with as fast as possible.
It's gotta be close.
I'll always have a grudge against this level for having annoyingly placed keys. Like again, you can have keys placed right above torches that hurt you when you get close to them. And you can have keys that you have to dig for, and it's impossible to know where exactly you're supposed to dig. And I'm gonna rip into one at the very end of this level, because that's part of the reason why this level went on for so long. I complained earlier about how Knuckles has to get an upgrade to dig, which is really stupid. I don't mind the fact that Rouge does, because bats aren't able to dig. So, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense that she has to get an upgrade. Oh no, it's not good enough that I broke the container that the key was in. Oh no, I have to actually walk into it too. It's just like how in Meteor Herd, it's not enough that I glided through that floating meteor. Oh no, I have to actually go back and get the floating Emerald Shard. I'm not sure how that ghost didn't stun me there. But this right here, this one key is complete and utter bullshit. Because there's so many different places that you could potentially dig it up. I mean, there's only one place that you can dig it up from, but how are you supposed to know exactly where to dig? The only way you can know exactly where to dig, and even then, the hint doesn't tell you exactly where to dig, it just gives you a hint. That's it, a hint. I spend forever here, because I'm digging in literally every place that I can when the exclamation point shows up, but it just doesn't work. The exclamation point should never show up if you're not standing in the exact spot that you should be digging. And that's an annoyingly placed enemy. Like, it's standing on such a small platform. Like, you're guaranteed to get hurt by it unless you glide into it. And again, I have to ask, how are you able to sense the keys? I mean, it's not like the keys have chaos energy in them. And for that matter, how was Rouge able to find the emerald shards? Like, how did Rouge have an emerald shard radar in the previous level? When in the cutscene that takes place after this level, she gets her emerald radar from Eggman. So how did she manage to find emerald shards in Dry Lagoon if she didn't have a radar for it? I mean, it's explained with Knuckles, because he's a guardian of the Master Emerald, that naturally he can sense emerald shards. And that was weird. Like I was digging up skulls, but they just fell through the floor. You can actually dig through the ground in the Chow Gardens. And you can actually dig up pumpkins and skulls that way. And you can even use them as masks for your Chow. And once again, I hate masks. And it's always tedious trying to get the Chow to take them off. But the convenient thing is that it's not a Adventure 2 battle, and I guess as they do as well. They restrict it so that you need to give a Chow a skeleton dog, and only then do they put a mask on their head. So you never have a problem where you're trying to get the Chow to stay still so that you can use the Infinite Animals glitch on it. And so you give it an eggshell to get it to stay still for a little while. And then it puts it on its head. And you have to abuse it to get that stupid, ugly mask off. This game doesn't do that, which I appreciate. But it just sucks that one of the only areas that it actually improved in from SNA1 is the Chow system. And even then, well, we'll get to that. But yeah, isn't this fun? Just digging in literally every place that you can, because the exclamation point isn't where it should be. I mean, I appreciate the fact that there's different colored sections of every level. Like, I appreciate the fact that there's a red part of Egg Quarters and a green part and a blue part, because it makes the hints a little more useful, because it says the blue area. Okay, I'll go to the blue area. I'm not really sure why they call them, like, the egg snake chamber or whatever. Like, they should just call them blue, red, and green. I mean, it would be a bland name, but it'd be a little easier to remember. Yeah, this is how bad the exclamation point is. I literally had to leave the room with the final key in it just to find some hints so that I could actually know where to dig. Why did they bother putting an exclamation point there in the first place? By the neck of the snake attached to the altar. Except you can't really dig into the snake itself. Every main room of Color Chamber has specific animals associated with it. Like, this has snakes in it. Okay, so I guess those things are the snakes. The things with the torches coming out of them. But there's so many different snakes. How are you supposed to know which one you're supposed to dig in front of? Why couldn't they just have the key out in the open? SA1 did a lot better because you had a lot more emerald shards that were out in the open, and it felt so satisfying being able to see them from really far away. And then you could just glide into them. In this game, it's almost guaranteed that you have to dig for emeralds, or break stuff, or kill enemies. Which makes it all the more inexcusable that you can only sense one emerald shard at a time. And because it makes it a lot harder to find emerald shards out of order. And it's gonna get worse. You think this is the worst that Rouge's levels get? You haven't seen nothing yet.